Here are a few more ideas to help you argue better on the internet. There's a lot of arguing on the internet, and lots of us, myself included, could be better at it. We could be more patient, we could be more welcoming and considerate to opposing points of view. We could be more willing to be proven wrong. We could and probably should stop comparing the people we disagree with to Hitler. And of course, we could make our arguments from a place of solid, logical reasoning. A couple months ago, we made a set of videos, a kind of Audubon field guide for bad arguments, we called them, helping to identify common fallacies, arguments that seem logical but are not. This here is the second installment in that series where we will discuss 3 additional fallacies, the 3 most requested, in fact. But before we do that, there are 2 things I would like to address. 1, fallacy spotting is not a replacement for constructing a sound counter-argument. Hoping to win an argument by relying on an eventual misstep by your partner in conversation is not only disingenuous, it is boring. It's like hoping to win a game of soccer on own goals alone, very unsporting. And 2, even if your retort does argue from a fallacious standpoint, it does not mean they are altogether wrong. If you do spot a fallacy, the book does not shut, the flag does not wave, you do not pass go, you do not collect 200 argument points, there is no automatic victory lap, which brings us to the first fallacy of the day. The fallacy fallacy. The fallacy fallacy assumes that because someone's argument contains a fallacy, the result of their reasoning is automatically and completely incorrect, which is not always the case. A person might argue from sound conclusions but have used fallacious means to arrive there. Their argument might be bad, but their conclusions correct. For instance, Straw Mike and Hey Mike are arguing about metal bands. Coldplay is a black metal band. I've never heard of this Coldplay, but if there is one thing I do know, it's that you, sir, are a chowderhead who never has any idea what he's talking about. Therefore, there is no way Coldplay is a black metal band. Is that an ad hominem fallacy I detect? I believe it is. Therefore, Coldplay must be a black metal band. I mean, listen to their name. It's so dark and edgy. Of course, we all know that Coldplay is not a black metal band, but rather the pop rock equivalent of warm, flat diet caffeine-free soda. Meaning, Hey Mike is correct, but accidentally. In response, Straw Mike commits a fallacy in believing his incorrect argument is proven true because the counter-argument contains an ad hominem fallacy. Most fallacies aren't so obvious. They take a form a little bit too complicated to imitate line by line here, but the outline usually goes roughly as follows. Jean makes an argument and Tina summarizes it, misrepresenting one facet, but overall providing a pretty salient response. Regardless of that salient response, Jean accuses Tina of setting up a straw man. He dismisses her conclusions, and the argument becomes an argument about the argument, and so, popcorn.jive. Unfortunately, the internet is one of nuance's many natural predators. So just remember, when someone has used a fallacy to make a point on the internet, it doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means that they've used a fallacy to make a point on the internet.
It's just a fallacy.
I hope this discussion of the fallacy has been helpful. Happy conversing.
The Texas sharpshooter.
The Texas sharpshooter fallacy is one where an argument is made and confirmed using the exact same set of information. It's named after a story about a Texan shooting at the side of a barn. After firing the last round, he walks over to the barn and draws bullseyes around the sets of holes that make him look like a great shot. Essentially, cause and effect are reversed. We believe the Texan is a great shot because of the appearance of his targets, when in fact the appearance of his targets is determined by his shots, which are nothing special. In conversational practice, a Texas sharpshooter ignores information outside of a desired result. Only things which have hit a target drawn ex post facto are considered worthy. For example, Mike and Straw Mike are talking about very awful and morbid statistics for workplace fatalities. In the United States, we focus most of our workplace safety efforts on protecting women rather than men. Over 90% of the victims of workplace deaths are male. It's awful how many people die each year on the job. I think it's important to note that all of the most dangerous professions, construction, shipping, and manufacturing, are in heavily and and historically male-dominated industries. To address your concern that we're worried more about women's workplace safety than men's, I think we should be looking at men and women doing the same jobs in the same industries. Straw Mike has drawn a target around statistics which support his most likely pre-existing idea that men are second-class citizens. He has ignored outlying information, specifically that there are more male victims of workplace death because historically there are fewer women doing the most dangerous work. Not because, or not just because, a lack of appropriate protection for male workers versus female workers. The Texas sharpshooter is related to confirmation bias, a type of cognitive bias where people have a tendency to interpret things in ways which confirm their own beliefs, ignoring that which challenges or disproves them. Which is to say, you might not be a Texas sharpshooter on purpose. Your sneaky brain might be doing it for you. But ignoring conflicting information is no way to win an argument. If you're standing on the shoreline, facing inland is not going to keep your feet dry. I hope this discussion of the Texas sharpshooter fallacy has been helpful. Happy conversing. Moving the goalposts. Moving the goalposts, sometimes called raising the bar, is a fallacy where the win condition for an opposing argument is constantly revised in response to its successes. Picture a soccer game. A player has the ball and is rushing towards the goal. There are no defenders in sight. The field is wide open. Just as the player is about to kick and score, two opponents pop up out of nowhere and literally move the goal out of the way of the ball.
Let's have another giggle at the miss.
Effectively, in the face of defeat, the defending side changes the very nature of the game being played. In conversation, it looks something like this. Mike and Straw Mike are talking about climate change. Things aren't too bad right now. I'll be worried when there is a clear difference in the climate. Things are bad right now. We have ice cores and tree rings. We know clearly that the climate hasn't been this bad for as long as humans have been around. Those are indirect measurements. You are making a leap of faith. What about all of those written climate records from around the world going back 150 years? 150 years is nothing. Show me written climate records going back a few thousand years, and then maybe I will change my tune. A common conclusion to this type of argument is the movement of goalposts outside the arena, to a place where the opposing side simply cannot score. It's impossible, for example, to provide written climate records from before there were written climate records, so the argument is over. Instead of admitting defeat or reconsidering their position in light of new information, the goalpost mover treats discussion like a game of Calvin ball, or a game of soccer, where they might win, but only because their goal is 2 towns over, encased in concrete and buried 10 feet underground. And I ask, is that really winning? I hope this discussion of the moving the goalposts fallacy has been helpful. Happy conversing. We are back. It is 2015, and I hope everybody had a great holiday break. I know we did. I spent some time in London with my girlfriend's family. We went to Copenhagen for New Year's and ran into a couple people, which was super nice and really fun. So I know that we said at the end of the last episode that we were going to be doing comment responses for the morning rituals video at the end of this video, but I lied to you. Sorry, we're going to be doing them at the end of next week's video. So we're going to use this space just to talk about a couple things that we have upcoming in the first part of 2015. First things first, merch is a thing that we are still working on very slowly, but I'm hoping that we will have stuff done soon. We have some t-shirts in the works and a couple other things. Office hours is another thing that we are working on. Now that the holidays are over, space becomes a lot more available, and now that people aren't moving around and traveling so much, it becomes a little bit easier to schedule things. So I'm hoping maybe to have office hours scheduled in New York City by the end of this month. We'll see. A couple other things, don't want to spoil any surprises, except, we have an episode about Serial coming up in 2 weeks. Serial, the podcast, not the breakfast food. So if you haven't listened to Serial, it's about, I think it's a little bit over maybe 12 hours, around 12 hours of material, so you might want to get started now. Probably also wouldn't hurt if you watched like a couple episodes of The Good Wife, because in a couple weeks, I'm going to be talking about those things. And I think that's it for now. So hope everybody has a good start to 2015, and we will see you next week.